Hey you guys, it's Kimmy with Coast DIY Bar, and I'm coming to you live from home to show you guys our Let's Get Cozy kit. So I decided to do it from home, mostly because we've got a lot of stuff to do here, but also because I think it would be better as a pre-done video. So sorry it's not going to be live, but it will be a little bit easier for you to watch because I can speed through some of the steps that you don't need to watch me doing for 10 minutes. So when you get your kit, you're going to have everything that you need. You're going to have your round, you're going to have your Let's Get Cozy 3D, you're going to have a big thing of 2.5-inch tape, and that's assuming we're going to do the big buffalo plaid. And then you're going to have the stain and paint that go with it, as well as foam brushes and chip brushes and some sponges. So you're going to have some options. And then I'm going to walk you through a couple of the things that you can do to make your sign, because you've got some flexibility. So the first thing I like to do is I'm going to stain the board. Now, you do not have to do this step. You could simply go straight on with your paint, but I'll show you when we get there. The reason I'm going to do this step first is it's going to give me an aging look without having to work so hard. So you see a lot of those sign makers that make all of those really pretty antique rustic looking signs. And honestly, it's not easy to get that level of technique if you're not an experienced crafter. However, we've come up with processes that work even if you're not. So the first thing you're gonna do is just put your stain on. You might have a foam brush with your kit. If you have a foam brush, use that one. I didn't have one here at home. So I'm just kind of using an old chip brush. If you've got a foam brush and a chip brush, definitely use the foam, because I'm gonna show you, you're gonna need the chip brush for the next process. So I'm just kind of doing a really quick coat. Now, I'm using the chocolate stain. That'll be in your kit. Sorry, I apparently can't talk in stain. So you'll get the chocolate stain, and the newer stains that we've got are super thick, super rich. They feel a little bit like paint, and that means that you're going to need to wipe it off right away. Look how fast that added color. So I'm just taking a paper towel, and I'm very quickly coming back and taking off all the excess that will come off with my paper towel. Now, let's say you don't want this layer this dark. That's okay. You can apply it with a paper towel. So you would put a little bit on and you would rub just like this immediately, as opposed to putting it on with a foam brush or some other kind of brush which lays down a lot more color than a paper towel would. See how I'm going through and just really getting all the excess off? And that's gonna be really key. Now, I'm not gonna do my edges because I think I'm gonna put a black border around my edge. I don't feel like I need to do the stain there because I'm going to go pretty solid. You could go ahead and stain your edge if you want, if that's the look you want on the edge. So you would go ahead and do that now if you wanted to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to blow this dry so that it's dry. It's all water-based. So you can do the same at home. You can give it a good blow dry, and then you'd be able to move on to your next step. Okay? I'll be right back. Okay, so I have fully dried this, and the way that you know that it's dry, I think the easiest way for me to tell you to do it is if you lay your hand on there for a few seconds and kind of let the warmth of your hand be on there, and if you lift it up and it feels a little tacky, it's still wet, obviously. If it feels really cold to the touch, not like, and let it cool off after you've dried it when you do this part, but if it's, you know, been cool, not under the dryer for a few minutes, and then you touch it and it feels really cold, it's still probably wet. So I would dry it a little bit more. It's really key that this is really dry before you move on to your next step, or the stain will bleed into the paint. And you'll end up with like a light tan versus white or red, whichever color you're doing. So now we're gonna move on to the base coat of the buffalo plaid. So the way that we do buffalo plaid is we're gonna do a solid color underneath. We're gonna do stripes one way, stripes another way, and then if we need to, we can touch up the places where they intersect to make them a little bit darker. That's gonna depend on how it looks when we get there, okay? Now, I've got a sample that shows you that what I've done is I've only done like the bottom portion of the board and left the top in the stain. You can do that. If you're gonna do that, I want you to take your tape, mark off your place that you wanna have it remain as stain, and then cover that up. If you wanna cover it fully with the tape, you've got plenty, go ahead and do that. For this sample, I'm gonna do the whole board just so that you can see both options, okay? All right, and I'm also gonna do, on the last one I did the brick red as the base, I'm gonna be doing dove white as the base on this one. Again, so you can see two colors of buffalo plaid. So I'm gonna use a clean chip brush. And what I'm doing, I want you to notice how I'm gonna go really solid in the middle. But I want the edges to look a little bit like this, like the paint has been worn off a little bit. Now to get this technique, you have to be really patient because it's gonna take some layers to get it more solid in the middle, but that's okay. You're supposed to enjoy your DIY. Grab a glass of wine, throw on your favorite movie. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually going to fast forward this portion of the video, and then I will slow it back down when we move to the next step. Okay, so I think I like where it's at. Even though I've got some parts that aren't covered, I think that's gonna look really cool with the kind of rustic look that I'm going for. So if you want it more solid, obviously you don't have to do the stain undercoat. You could just do a solid white, and you will want to dry it completely. But a couple of tips about using your chip brush, putting this kind of layer on. Notice that I keep kind of going back and painting it in. What I don't want is I'm okay with a few ridges because we're gonna do a technique that will benefit from that, but I don't want it to be super thick and gloppy. So I just keep going back. The other trick is also, you've gotta watch the angle of your brush stroke. So see how mine's kind of off to an angle to me? That's my comfort zone for getting straight lines. If I tried to put this straight on to me and I try to go like this, I know that I'm gonna make it wavy. So just find the spot that works for you. And then if you find that you've got a spot that looks a little more wavy than you'd like, just do another coat on top. There's really no way to ruin this. All you do is just add more paint, okay? So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna stop the video again. I'm gonna give this a good blow dry. You're gonna do the same. Let it dry completely and fully. The other thing that you can do, if you do not have what we call a crusty brush, so this is a good example. Look how I can't even bend the hairs on that. If you watched other videos of ours, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, then you don't. If you do not have a crusty brush, I want you to Let this set overnight for the next step. And I want you to not do anything to this brush. Don't wash it out. Let this dry overnight just like this. And this paint will make this brush really crusty, okay? All right, I'm gonna give this a blow dry and I'll be back. Okay, so I am fully dry. And the next part is going to be taping off for your charcoal stripes, okay? And with this kit, we're giving you 2-inch painter's tape. I find that it is the width that I like for this size sign. You could do smaller if you have that at home. And what you're gonna do is, if you can see the lines in the board, great. I'm not sure that I can anymore. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to line this up in the middle somewhere. And I'm not actually gonna push it down because I think I'm gonna benefit from looking at it this way. Excuse the dogs there. They just ran out of the house. I don't know if you heard them. Okay. If you want to get really precise and measure, you can do that. That is absolutely not my style. I'm pretty comfortable with freeform. Okay, and so I'm gonna have this piece be down. Now what I need is a spacer tape because I'm gonna do horizontal lines first. And so I'm gonna take a little piece of tape and I'm gonna use it as a spacer, but I want them to be pretty precise. Now, you can obviously do stripes with your brush and not use tape. You're welcome to do that. I've done that on certain techniques. When I do buffalo plaid, I tend to always use some form of stripe assistance. Okay. And you're just gonna keep going. If your white and stain are not fully dry, then you're gonna have trouble at this step. Okay. And I'm even gonna have a little space on the end there, it looks like. Now we're gonna find out how even my center stripe was. Here's the other tip. If you're worried about centering, then don't center. Do the complete opposite. Find a space and just stick it down. Purposely have things not exactly lined up, because then no matter what, your eye won't be drawn to any particular space. Also, you don't want your tape to crinkle because that means it's not going to be straight on the other side. Okay, one more. And if you think about buffalo plaid, I did a video where I walked through the logic of buffalo plaid. If you go back in our DIY videos, you can find that. And it's actually based off of this project. So it's where I designed this project. So you could go back and look how I did the red if you want. And maybe I'll put a link in the post to that one. But the way that buffalo plaid works, it has to, think about fabric, right? It overlaps in the fabric, and where the colors overlap, it gets darker. So we're trying to mirror that with our paint. All right. Okay, and I've got charcoal paint. It's a matte paint. It's going to be a chalk paint. And it's less the chalk paint that I like and more the color, because I feel like the color goes with the buffalo plaid, okay? So mine, I brought home in this little container, okay? And what you're gonna do, you're just gonna dip in, and it should be pretty thick. And what I want you to do is you're gonna do the same thing you did with the white. Now, if you want a very solid look right now, you would take a makeup sponge and you're gonna sponge it on. I don't think that's how I did it on the red, but if you look at any of our painting videos, I do tend to sponge on a lot. But the look I'm going for here is much more much more rustic, but also maybe the feel of fabric a little bit by showing off the stripes. And I want it to be a little bit solid, but it doesn't have to be perfectly covered. If you're going for a much more stark look, much more color, you're going to cover the whole thing. Don't leave any places not painted like I'm doing. So see how I'm kind of leaving some stripes of white showing. I'm going to try to leave some of the brown showing through so that I don't ruin the effect that I got by doing that. So right now I'm going to speed up video and I'll just do all of my horizontal stripes. Okay, so I have got this pretty much covered as much as I want. Notice I'm leaving a lot of the white showing through, just the look that I'm going for. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to peel my tape. Now, you wanna peel this when it's wet. It's gonna give you a cleaner pull. There you go. Okay. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna dry these completely and make sure I don't have any wet spots at all. And then we're gonna do the other direction. Okay. Okay. So I have it fully dried. And now what we're gonna do is we're going to put our tape the other direction. And I'm just gonna use the same tape. If you got a little messy on your tape or got a little heavy with your paint, you've got an entire roll. I want you to use that stuff for every project you've got from now on. And so don't feel like you're wasting it. Sorry for the pause. I'm trying to decide if I want to measure this, and I think I decided that I do, which is, again, I'm not normally this precise, but I'm gonna get pretty close. So 7.5. Oh yeah, I'm kind of off by a lot there. It was feeling off. That's why I was checking. Okay, let's see. I don't think I moved it enough. A little bit more. Okay. Let's see, we'll go here where I can see it. So. I went too far. Here we go. Let's see if that does it. Okay. This is why I don't measure. Okay, this is painful. Fast forward. Okay. I'm gonna see if I'm close enough. Okay, I am close enough. I am not centered, but I'm gonna live with it. Now the question is, am I horizontal? And I'm just gonna kind of eyeball this straight like that. So then I'll get, well, I think I curled up my spacer. Get a fresh spacer. And then we're gonna do the same thing that we did before. And we're gonna actually paint on exactly like we did before. So I will speed this portion of the video up. There's really nothing different than what we just did. And then I will bring us back down to normal speed for the last portion of the buffalo plaid. Okay, so I'm gonna come back on here real quick and just show you the first of this. Again, it's no different than before. You're just gonna go this direction, and if you notice where you cross over the other lines that are perpendicular to it, you see a darkening, or you could see a darkening. Sometimes, because we're mimicking fabric and it's not really fabric, you don't quite get the darkest dark that you want in that spot. And if you don't, then you can muck it up with black paint right in that square. And I'll show you. I actually have, I have this one here. This is the same look that I'm doing. And I used a little bit of black right in these holes right there, just to make sure that it had the effect that we were looking for. So what I'm gonna do, I will speed up the video again. I'm just gonna keep on keeping on and finish out my perpendicular stripes, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how to do the black. Oh, I'm just speeding up, I'm not stopping. Okay, so I've got it covered like I like it. I've gone light in some areas, dark in others. One thing to note, you need to go over the other lines to get that crossover effect. That's really key to making it look right. And when I look in the camera, I can see that the places where I did the crossover look much darker than these places that I did not. That's the look that you're going for. But let's say you did not achieve that effect very well, and you want to get a little bit more darkness on your piece. Well, first off, you need some black paint, so I'll be right back. Okay, so I got my black paint, and what you're gonna do, I'm just gonna use my plastic like a palette and pour some out. And I'm gonna use the same brush that I just used. All I'm gonna do is dip my bristles into that. And I wanna be very careful. Now, you can let this fully dry and tape off the original lines, leaving these dark spots as the only ones exposed. You can definitely do that. But I don't think you need to, because you're not gonna want to cover solidly. See, you can't even see I did it, but I did it. So what you're trying to do is just add a little bit of a darker color. So the stripes are in charcoal, and I pulled the black, which you'll have in your kit. And all you're gonna do is just go over that really lightly. And notice that I'm going against the direction of the tape. So I wanna be very careful and not push very heavy. If you push really heavy, you might get it under the tape. But all I'm trying to do is just add a little, see how it's just a little bit darker on these than these? That's gonna give us a definite pop of buffalo plaid. Just pay attention when you're doing this. If you're worried about it, tape off. When you tape off, you're not pulling these up. You're just gonna be putting tape right here where you're not trying to paint. And if you get a lot of bristles, you can pull them out while you're doing this, or after it's all done and it's dry, they should come out. If they don't, you can do a very light sandpaper and that will pop them out. Okay, just gonna move a little quicker. I don't think I need to be so serious about this. Okay, yeah, you can definitely see. So I think just depends on the look you want to go for. If you want it to be much more stark, then definitely hit it with a little bit of the black. Just watch where you're going. You don't want to go outside of that stripe or, well, it'll look messy. And notice I'm still using the crusty chip brush so that it's not solidly painting. It's just kind of streaking it on. All right, you ready? Here we go. There you go. All right. I love it. There's some awesome buffalo plaid right there. Use that technique on anything. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to shut off the video. I'm going to go dry this, and then I will get the Let's Get Cozy 3D so that we can put it on top. Okay, back in a minute. Okay, so I am back, and we are dry, and I've got my words, and you know, I sat here for like a good 5 minutes before I put the video back on because I was trying to decide, do I like this without painting the words? And I kind of do. Like, I feel like it's definitely visible to see. There we go, it's probably better. So what I'm gonna do is I'm not actually gonna paint these words, but what I am gonna do is show you, I've got a little piece of something here that I can show you how to paint them. So I'm gonna do that, and then I'll show you what the color will look like. And then maybe we'll even double check the color myself. So all you're gonna do, I would, if I was gonna do it in red. If I did the red as my background, I would probably do the words in white. All of my paint is clogged up. All right. So you're gonna get it's a barn red in the kit. It's actually milk paint. Not that that matters to you. It's gonna be a little bit thinner than chalk paint. And all you're gonna do, I just put a little bit on the end of my sponge, and this is how I would paint. I don't know, I do like that red. And notice I'm just sponging. Now, if you don't like the edges to get anything on them, you can have a baby wipe nearby and you can clean that up. I don't know, that's pretty on there, isn't it? So, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. Let's do it. So I'm gonna go ahead and paint these. It won't take me too long. With these little words, well, honestly, with all the words, be super careful. I picked a font that I really like, but is, you know, it's a little thin. Okay, I'm not even gonna redip. I'm just gonna see. Be super careful. Don't move too fast on these tiny ones. And your apostrophe for the let's is attached, so we didn't lose it. You don't want too much paint on your sponge when you're doing this. If you find like it's too heavy, you can dab off on a plate or something. And the reason I'm sponging, you could, let me show you, hang on. You could wipe it on, but you get a darker finish by sponging. And I really want the red to stand out. We're gonna do red, we're gonna have it stand out. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I will finish my cozy, I will fast forward this, and then we'll glue it together. Okay, so we are painted. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, so you can put it anywhere you want. I think on the sample that I did, I tucked it way in the corner over here because I had the top stained, not painted. But you can also do it like right in the center, even like right in the center. Let's see. Kind of look at it in the camera. Maybe a little high. There we go. That does better. Okay, and then it's a swervy font. So there's a plus and a minus to that. The plus is you can get away with any angle. The minus is you don't really know what the angle is. So just make it look like you like it. And then I'm gonna make sure we can see that. And you know what? I think I'm gonna change my mind. I'm gonna tuck it over here, and then I'm gonna tuck this right here. Kind of like I did the other one. I don't know why, but that feels so much better for my brain. Okay, and then you're gonna have some glue. It's probably clear. This is gonna be white, but it'll dry clear. And I want you to be super light. You don't need a ton of glue. Hit your corners, hit any little pieces. And then here's a tip that you can do for, I'm gonna pull the extra of that bag and get a So what I like to do for the little ones is just like paint, put a little bit of glue. I want you to be careful. Gotta make sure you have enough. I didn't really get enough there. I kind of dabbed it all off. But the reason I'm doing the sponge is it will kind of spread it out. And not be all blobby. Last one. And then off camera I will, well, I'll show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the edges and I'm going to pop them in black. And I'll just show you how I would do that. I have kind of moved my paint protector, so I'm going to be super careful. But I'm going to use a brush, and the trick is to go super light, and you won't be able to see. Maybe I'll turn it around in a second once that dries. But notice how I'm pulling up and not down. And then on the bottom, you can kind of go side to side. And I think I'm going to switch. I think I've got time to switch because that paint is still wet. I'm gonna do the charcoal. And it's not, there we go. Won't be so harsh. That's my dogs. The wind blew outside. I don't know what they just ran over, but something. So on the bottom, you can do the edge sideways. And then let me kind of turn this. There we go. On the top, you only want to go up. That's how I find that I can get this edge without it being too rustic. Like if you come up a little bit with this style that I've done, it won't matter. Especially if you do it, just did it. It's kind of hard to do backwards. But I don't think it particularly matters. Just take your time with it. And you can see you'll get a nice finish on the edge. And I think it makes it pop off the wall a little bit better, gives it a little bit of definition. They have found something. So that's it. You're gonna finish your edge. I'm gonna let this dry a little bit more before I start manhandling it a little bit more. And then I will put a hanger on the back and I will hang it up and take a good picture. So I hope you love it. Ignore my dogs and definitely post a picture and let us see it. Have a great one.